Doug Robb, Hoobastank, thanks for being with us today. You got the Summerland Tour coming to Billy Bob's in Fort Worth. That's Friday, July 9th. Everclear, you guys on the bill. Got Living Color, got Wheatus. Such an awesome bill. What has it been like? Have you guys already had shows, or you're right about to have shows right now?
We have not started that tour. That tour actually begins in Boston on July 1st. We have a couple shows before that, but that's the start of that specific tour.
Have you been on stage yet since the pandemic and everything though?
No, dude, it's been geez, it'll be probably 18 months when we hit the stage for the first time. Later this month for a couple warm-up shows before the actual tour, which is by far the longest we've ever gone individually or as a band, not playing music, yeah, since we started playing music in high school.
So have you thought about like what are the things you're gonna have to like tune up for again, get ready for again since you've had this time off?
um it's stamina, physical, like literal physical stamina. That's the main thing. We were all a little concerned about. We started rehearsing a few weeks ago, like I said, which we hadn't done in over a year. And I was pleasantly surprised at how everything went. We've definitely sounded worse before. So we all kind of said, you know what, that was, the break was obviously way too long, but we don't sound that bad. We were all a little tired for sure
Yeah.
after running through, as many songs as we could do. But yeah, I think that's it. Mainly just stamina. But I think once you're back on stage, adrenaline will kick in, and um, you won't realize how tired you are until after the show.
I'm sure. Yeah. Maybe after a few shows it'll catch up, but
Yeah, so I was gonna say maybe a couple shows in, then you're gonna wake up on the bus and be like, "Oh my god, I'm tired. My neck is really sore."
so you mentioned the bus. I'm just wondering, like, the ins and outs obviously better than I do, but just, in my meager radio career, being around artists and being backstage and on tour buses and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of like all the little things that might be different as like basically you guys are going to be just like everyone else who's starting to tour right now, kind of relearning how to do this on the fly with, there may be, new wrinkles thrown in for protection and keeping everybody safe. Have you thought about any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has been brought to our attention simply by management and booking agents going, well, you can't do this now and you have to do this now, and we're like, oh my god, you're right. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that. When you've been doing something one way for 20 years, and then you all these things that you kind of just take for granted are changing. You have to take that into consideration. um I think mainly, uh it's going to change probably from city to city and venue to venue, as far as what kind of protocol they want to take. Um, I'm pretty sure, I'm not certain, that all bands and all crew on that Summerland tour are vaccinated. Um, which, if so, uh, would really make the backstage interaction and everything a lot more normal.
Right.
It'll feel more normal. But if not, we're going to have to approach that, like anything else, as a fluid situation, and we might have to wear masks. I know there's not going to be as much um, meet and greets and things like that, if any. To be honest with you, I haven't heard
Yeah.
um, for certain if there even will be meet and greets and things like that, which is something that, like I said, every band is used to doing, and it's just part of touring. You meet fans, you sign things, you take photos, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen in quite the same way. It might in a different form. It might take a new form, but yeah, I don't know. How close am I going to be to the front? How close is the barrier going to be to the stage? How am I going to be able to get out onto people if I wanted to? Like, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I
Yeah, well,
think, like I said,
you've certainly been known in the past to, make your way into the crowd. So
we'll see what happens. You know,
Yeah.
they might say, yeah, do what you want, but you know, I may not feel super comfortable in some places. I don't know. We're just gonna have to, like I said, it's gonna be like a show to show thing.
Well, I guess the good news is that, with so much time off, you were talking about, regaining stamina and all that stuff. At least, if you're going to have to relearn some things or, retrain your body to some things, it'll be good to be learning the new ways. It's not like you just like one day changed and you were on tour yesterday and then you're on tour tomorrow and all of a sudden you've got all these different protocols and stuff to learn,
Right. That yeah, that the gradual, you know, all the changes and things that everyone's had to, you know, cope with or endure or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's happened over, you know, 18 months. So uh, obviously that makes it a lot easier um, than if it happened overnight. Like all of a sudden we had to do everything at once.
Yeah.
That obviously is a much bigger shock to the system. So in that sense, I don't think it's going to be that bad. Plus, everybody's very understanding of it, and everybody. I mean, I don't know yet, but I would imagine that a lot of people are just going to be happy they're out and listening to live music and with with their friends again, which is kind of how I feel.
I think you're 100% right on that. And I'll say one thing. I don't know if you've ever played this venue before, Billy Bob's in Fort Worth, but they're one of the most famous honky tonks in the South. So they usually, they do rock shows, but it is a small fraction of the overall shows that they do throughout a year. So it's always really badass when rock shows come to that venue because it's a country western hall.
Oh, nice! I'm gonna have to look it up for sure.
Yeah, there'll be some
I
fun if you can get out and stuff. I mean, it's on all the historic, Fort Worth Cowtown stuff is like all around there. Some of it's hokey, but a lot of it's pretty cool. So it's a
oh,
fun
that's
place to
cool.
get out and walk around if you can.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
you've obviously, you guys have had such a long career now. You've had your opportunity to, tour with your heroes and stuff like that. But such a cool bill. And I know, these are bands that, I mean, you talk about Living Color, like, I mean, I think Everclear was formative for me. I mean, you guys were a little formative for me, but like Living Color is even more formative. Can you talk just like about that bill and any thoughts you
Y-
have on the other bands?
Yeah, it kind of. I remember our manage. We've known about the Summerland tour for a few years. You know, it's been running for a while, and we've had friends that have been on the bill, and um, I've always thought like that. I think that's a good fit. I'm a fan of Everclear, and it would be cool if the offer ever came around. So when it came around, we were like, great, you know, this what a perfect way to come out of our this worldwide slumber on a tour that we had hoped to someday play. And then I remember our manager going, "Oh, it's going to be you guys, you know, and Everclear and Living Color." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Because I was a huge, oh, I still am a huge Living Color fan. I remember, I think I was in eighth grade or something like that when a buddy of mine had some kind of cutout, probably from a music magazine, play like slipped into his folder, you know, and he was like, "You got to hear this band, you got to hear this band," and that was back in the cassette days. So uh, I remember listening to it and just being like, "Dude, this is so good."
Yeah.
And then all through high school, you know, the first three albums, um, I was a big fan, and our guitar player is like, "Yeah, you're the one who kind of showed me like about that band. You got me into that band." You know, just when you're with your buddies and you're driving around in the car and they're listening to what, you know, their DJ because it's their car. They put in what
Right.
they want. And so he credits me for that. And so we're both pretty excited. I think it's just going to be one of those things that I'll probably be on the side of the stage, just like, you
Yeah.
know, like just watching them play and kind of pinching myself. And, uh, you know, I'm going to feel like a high school kid.
I think that's a good feeling to have, being your first tour back and all. It's funny you mentioned like how you would discover music back then because you guys are celebrating 20 years of the debut self-titled album, and I remember you guys were one of those bands that you know you guys came through in a really interesting time for rock. It was a very big time for me as a fan and as a music geek growing up. And it seemed to me that back at that time, like the labels were throwing so much at the wall from the rock side of things. So like to cut through, I think was really impressive at that time. Because you had so much, I mean, to be honest, like there was so much watered down crap back then. There's so many rip off
Yeah.
bands,
Yeah.
I'll
You know
say it,
what?
you don't have to. I know you're a nice
Okay.
guy, but um like so for you guys to cut through, you guys were one of those
Oh,
bands.
you said like, and I thought you were gonna start naming bands. I'm like,
Oh
oh,
no,
he's
no,
gonna do
no,
it.
no, 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 no. But you guys were one of those bands that like my friend group, like I would hear from 10 different friends, you got to hear Hoobastank. You got to hear Hoobastank. And you know how it was like your situation with Living Color. I just wonder, like, memories of that time and that album and coming onto the scene and breaking through now that you're looking back on it 20 years.
Um, I've actually had we've known obviously the 20th anniversary of the self-titled album um, was upon us, and so we've actually talked about it a lot. And obviously, we're older and have kids and families, and so we balance this kind of like personal and professional life differently now, because back then it was just professional life. Um, that that's weird that you say there was so much rock music being thrown, to see what sticks. Because I never really thought about it in that terms, that it was being pushed by record companies. I always thought, well, rock was just a lot bigger back then because it was more popular. And I understand music's cyclical, but I never saw it in that terms. Like there is maybe the why we heard so much is because they were trying so hard to make something happen. But as far as that album cycle and that time in our lives, I think I can say I can speak for the band. It was probably the most exciting, um, for lack of adjective, just the best time we've had. It was 2001. The album came out in November 2002. I think from 2001, the next year we spent 300 days on the road.
Wow.
Um, and for the next few years, we averaged about 25 countries a year. Um, and like I said, none of us were married, none of us had kids. We had worked the last 6 7 years to get to this point, playing everything from cafes to teen centers, any place that would let us make some noise, and finally, getting a record deal, getting an album out, and then having some success with the music. Then touring the world with our friends in Incubus and 311 and these. Oh man, it was one of those things. I don't mean to like just be over. I'm not trying to exaggerate, but literally each day was like better than the next, better than the last. And because it was all so new. It wasn't just what was happening, because what was happening was great, but it was also the mindset we were in. Like I said, we're new to everything, and it was like our first for everything. And so even though the Reason album was a more successful album commercially, and put us in front of even more people, along with that, some of those years in there were very were very stressful. And I don't remember ever being stressed out, or um, I don't remember anything negative about that self-titled album. Everything was just so much fun. Um, and we've talked about it as a band, and we all kind of unanimously agree. Yeah, that was career-wise, that first record, and the touring cycle behind that first record, even going into writing The Reason, um, was probably our favorite time.
Well, I obviously, like, you were in it, and I was coming from it like as a consumer. you know, and so that's probably why I had those feelings. And look, I was an angsty teen, you know, like for something to break through with me, like it had to be pretty good. But you know, I think ultimately it's always the songs, number one. But then with you guys, and I don't remember if it was during the self-titled cycle or maybe the beginning of the next cycle, but I believe I saw you guys do the um, that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame live show that would air on MTV.
Yeah, that was during the first album cycle. I
And
remember that.
that was the first time I saw you guys in a live performance. And then so you go from I really like the songs to holy crap, the energy that you guys brought to the table is just I think when you match those two things, like whatever the fad is, whatever the BS, you know, whatever is on the radio, like when you match great songs and live performance that just like reaches out and grabs someone like me who was like, you know, 13 at the time, like that can't be stopped, you know?
Awesome. I mean, yeah, I totally get what you mean. I I came across some old footage, like video footage of like Faith No More recently, like in the last week, and I saw it and I sent it to my buddy. I'm all, you remember this shit? You know, like this was so cool. And it's that, and it kind of got me thinking the same thing. Like I love the song already, but then to see a band do it and then even bring something else to the table, like a different dynamic that you didn't get just by listening to the song. And if it matches, you know, if it can make the song that much more impactful, it's pretty cool. It doesn't happen all the time. You know, sometimes you love a song, you see a band perform it, and you're like, okay. I like the, I like just the, you know, the album version better. But there are a lot of bands that I prefer the live version better because it brings something else out.
Yeah, sadly, I think it's happening less and less, but I may be in that category. You know, they say our like it's scientific, like our brains stop accepting newer music at a certain age as much. So maybe that's I'm just getting, you know, old and cranky, but you know.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm like, people are like, so you listening to new music? I'm like, eh. Yeah, I've never been one to be like on the prowl for new music. I mean, I might have been back in my, you know, teenage years and stuff, but um, I think even once we started touring and doing that, I've always been open to new music if it kind of lands in my lap. I always have my ears open, but I was never searching for new stuff. And I haven't heard anything new in a while that's really spoken to me. Not that there isn't great music out there. It's just you know, it's a different mindset, really.
No, I'm in the same boat. But on the other hand, like there's so much to still like we have access to so much now. Like there's so much to still discover from the past too. So I wonder if there's anything recently from the past that's been inspiring to you or that you've been listening to. If it's not new stuff, is it old stuff?
Yeah, like I said, I don't listen to a lot of new stuff. But to be honest with you, I don't when I hear music, I don't look at the date, you know, like when
Yeah.
did this come out, you know?
Yeah.
If it's something cool, whatever it is, a riff, a melody, whatever, I'll just go, oh, that's cool, and I'll add it to my library or something like that without looking like when did it come out, because it doesn't really matter. And maybe, you know, maybe this a younger generation approaches music that way, uh, because everything is so accessible, you know,
Yeah.
as opposed to when we were younger, we had to do our homework to get stuff that was from the past. You know, the new stuff was being thrown at us all the time, but if we wanted to go backwards, it took a lot of effort. And today, you know, it doesn't. It's the same amount of effort to listen to music that's 15 years old as it is something that just came out, you know.
Even still, man, I mean, I even to get a new album, you know, I had to ride my bike 5 miles, you know,
Yeah.
you had to know like you had like you probably only had enough money in your pocket to buy that one thing. And man, you better not buy the wrong one. You better not buy a dud, you know?
Right, right. Oh, dude. Right? Is that there was nothing worse than like, oh, the single is really good, but the rest of the album sucks,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And
But
those were the days because as we know, you know, it's this the story's been told very thoroughly now at how much we were we're getting ripped off with those $20 compact discs in a
Oh,
lot of
geez.
cases. So,
Right.
um, so besides being able to go out on tour and perform, which is obviously like a number one, for you, what other things are you looking forward to as the world reopens? Like things that are there any things I don't know, like for me, I loved going and seeing movies in the movie theater. And you know, in Texas here, like they've been open, but it's still not the same. Like if you go and there's only now I went to a Friday night opening of the new Jason Statham movie, um, who is like that guy's box office gold. And
Right.
it was still only about half full, you know? So
That's to be expected though, like I love, dude, I love going to see movies too. Like I would on the road on tour, like who wants to go? We got an off day. Who wants to go see a movie? Nobody? Okay, me. I'm going by myself. Like I don't care. I like being there, And so stuff like that. And I'm a huge baseball fan. Going back to baseball games, sporting events, and stuff like that. Um, I was looking forward to. We live in LA, so my family we would go to Disneyland a lot, stuff like that. The kids love that kind of thing. I've had a chance to go back to Disneyland and a couple Dodger games, but the capacity has been capped at like 25%,
yeah.
which initially you go, oh man, that's not cool. But then you go, uh, and it was pretty awesome. I'll be honest with you. Going to Disneyland and going on 25 rides because there's no lines for everything. That's not the worst thing ever. The Dodger game, you sit in these like how many tickets you buy, it's like a little pod, so if there's four of us and there's nobody around you for like a row and a half any direction, and so you could just put your feet up and do that. It was pretty nice. But I don't expect, I think June 15th everything goes back, like capacity wise, at least here in California, goes back to normal, just like it's a free-for-all again. And no way do I expect you know everything to instantly just turn on, like I get it. There's I think, to be honest with you, I think it's cautious to kind of dip your toe in before you cannonball back in.
Mhm.
Go, just take a step at a time. And so by the fall, everybody will hopefully, if things keep progressing the way they do, um, will get their kind of turn their minds back to normal. Whatever that means, but that they don't think twice when they go, hey, let's go see a movie, or they don't think twice, like, hey, we're going to go to the Dodger game, and there's going to be 55,000 people sitting on top of each other, and nobody goes like, oh, I just think we went through 18 months of like stay away from everybody. You can't expect everybody to just flip a switch and go back to that, even if they are vaccinated or not.
Yeah, I agree. And like even for me, I'm not cautious in the sense of being worried about myself. But what I will say is, I've had all this time and I almost didn't even realize it was happening. I mean, obviously, I knew I was more isolated and I wasn't around as many people, but I'll find myself now when I'm, out and about and there's a lot of people around, I can feel it a lot more. And my senses have to get more used to, it's all, I mean, I don't want to over dramatize it, but it's almost like an anxiety thing. Um, for me personally, just so I
Right.
think that's part of it too. Just like you were saying with warming up to the stamina of being on stage again, like um just the world has been turning so much slower for all of
Yeah.
us. And
Right.
like you said, it's starting back up slowly.
Right. And you can't expect it to, like I said, to just go from 0 to 60 again overnight. um I understand that anxiety about, like you've been not isolated, but at least amongst a smaller group of people for so long that being in big crowds seems could induce some anxiety for sure. Naturally, I'm a very introverted person. I don't go to a lot of big gatherings. I don't like a lot of I don't know. It's one of the things I always knew about myself, but I didn't really know there was a name for it. And that feeling that I got when I was in those situations, I didn't know that was anxiety. I just knew it was this feeling. Um, and one of the interesting things about the past year and a half is that, especially, early on last year, I felt for a second like the world had to slow down to my speed, which was interesting because I remember saying that I've got a group of like dad friends. I have this big text thread with like 16, 18 dad friends, and a lot of those guys are not like that. They want to party, they want to be go to gatherings and groups, and they were really struggling. And I was kind of like, yo, you guys now have to live the life that I choose to live. Like, I don't want to go to all these things, and I don't want to always be outside in these large groups. And it was a real struggle for them. And so it was interesting to see how they reacted to it. And I guess only time will tell, to see how it'll feel to be back on stage with people around and stuff. I mean, I'm sure it'll be like riding a bike, but there definitely will be some anxiety mixed in there.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I'm definitely naturally introverted too, but I certainly don't have the creative output on the scale that you do. But for me, being on the radio and like having to be at my creative and energetic peak during that time, or going and doing live appearances, and so even if I wasn't doing all that, like if I was just working a regular 9 to 5, maybe I would want to go out more and like let loose and stuff at the end of the day, end of the week. But because I put myself out there so much in my day job, I have a lot of that. Like when I get home, I'm really ready to like hunker down. So that has been, I wasn't really ready to admit it early on with the pandemic, but that has been kind of a similar thing for me of going, okay, like, I actually kind of need this. But it's been long enough. I'm ready to like I'm ready to come
Right,
see
right,
I'm ready to come see you guys in the
right.
Summerland tour at Billy Bob's.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. Um, yeah, once like you said, uh, once the extrovert fuel tank is empty, you with your job and me with my job, a lot of people don't understand that it needs to be replenished, by basically not doing anything.
Well, Doug, I appreciate your time, man. We can't wait to see you July 9th. Anything else we should be looking forward to with you or the band?
No, but you said July 9th, and that's actually our guitar player's birthday. So whatever
Awesome.
we can do at Billy Bob's to enhance the birthday experience would be cool. Let's see, we got the Summerland tour. That's going to be running all of July, and then I think we have a few one-offs in August, and then honestly, the Summerland tour will start back up and go through a lot of September as well. Um, November will be the 20th anniversary of the self-titled debut album, like you said. We're trying to figure out some cool things we can do for that. I know our guitar player Dan spent a lot of 2020 digitizing physical, video cassettes, or those mini video cassettes of everything having to do with that first record, from the writing to the recording to the tours, because out of everything, like all the records we've done, that one was the most documented because it was the first, and we were just soaking it all up. So there's a lot, so much footage of, like I said, the recording of that record and the first and some tours. And most of it is extremely boring and probably super offensive, but we'll curate it somehow that we're comfortable with, and see if we can get it out in some format.
Hey, if you captured enough of it, there's certain to be some gold in all there somewhere, right?
Oh, there's certainly some gold, but there's also some crap.
Some too hot for TV.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we can't wait to see you, Doug Robb, Hoobastank. Thank you, my man.
Thanks, dude.